Mic check 1 2 1 2. I am the Y2K Collector, and I am back with the second episode in our Sega Nostalgia series. And today we're going to be looking at two games that bring back a lot of memories for me. And both of these games are quite popular in the Sega community. I know that there are a few people and a few YouTubers, in fact, who've spoken about these games a number of times, but I'm happy to share them with you again because, again, these do mean a lot to me and they take me back to a very, very fun place in my childhood. And so we've got two games today. The first game that we're going to be looking at is Rocket Knight Adventures. And then the second game that we're going to be looking at is the Thunder Force 3. And I thought that these two games were pretty unique because Rocket Knight, although there was a sequel to it, that sequel was not as popular as the original Rocket Knight Adventures. I think there was a Sparkster, was the Rocket Knight Adventures 2 that came out. And I don't know how popular Sparkster was. I know it's very expensive now. And it is a fun game. The controls and mechanics aren't the same as the original Rocket Knight, and I think that's kind of what takes away from the Sparkster game. I think just the controls on the first Rocket Knight were simple yet fun, and I think that added to the game. Rocket Knight, it came out in '93. It's a platformer, really, developed and published by Konami for Sega. Released in North America on August 5th and in Japan on August 6th, both in 1993. And really, Rocket Knight Adventures, you know, it was designed by the same designers that made games like Contra, The Alien Wars, and Hard Corps, as well as Shattered Soldier. So, you know, those are the minds that kind of put this game together. And again, you know, the main character, it's Sparkster. It's a possum who's a knight who has a rocket pack and a sword. I mean, just classic 90s, right? Like, you could take almost any animal, give them some armor, give them a weapon and a rocket pack, and they're an instant superhero. And, you're just going through trying to defeat this evil empire of the Devotindos. I think that's what it's called, the Devotindos Empire. And it just looks like an empire just made up of a bunch of just, of angry pigs. And I think there's Zephyrus, who's the first king, and it just goes on, right? Just a really cool story. You're obviously trying to rescue, I think, a damsel in distress. I could be wrong, but let me know if I'm wrong down there. But this game has always gotten positive reviews. I mean, just down the line, it's always gotten great reviews because it is just a fun game. It was well received. Honest Gamers gave the game a 9 out of 10. Player One gave it a 97%. Mega Action 94% score. Game Pro gave it a 16.5 out of 20. So just a lot of really cool reception for the game. And I remember when my brother brought this home, I think we had finally beaten games like Ghouls and Ghosts and Streets of Rage and Sonic and all those games. And I think my brother was just looking for something different, right? And Konami's always been known for making great games. And so when he ran into Rocket Knight's one of those games that between the music, the colors, the fast-paced action, it's one of those games that sucks you in right away. And there's not a lot of games that do that. Sometimes you got to play a game for a little bit and kind of get into it, but Rocket Knight is not like that at all. You pop it in, you get into it, and the game is just a ton of fun. Has a very interesting story. The main character himself is just a barrel of laughs. He's just a funny character. From the way he gets injured to the little noises that he makes, it's a fun game. So for me, Rocket Knight just takes me back to that time of colorful sprites, adventurous music. And again, this is 1993, right? So we're talking the Dream Team. The Bulls are still huge, right? I think they're winning their third championship. They're three-peating around this time. This is August, right? Yeah. So the Bulls had just finished their three-peat. When you start thinking about the music that was out at that time, just a very fun summer. Think back to the summer of '93 if you're old enough to remember that. And Rocket Knight Adventures was a huge part of that. And so I'm glad to go ahead and have that one in the collection. The next one up that we're going to look at is Thunder Force 3. Now, I think that a big part of my love for the shoot 'em up genre of video games is in large part due to my older brother. Again, he had his taste in games, and they usually wound up being arcade action type games, whether they be action platformers, whether they be shoot 'em ups, fighting games. That's what my brother was about. My brother was never really a huge RPG guy. And if he did play an RPG, it had to be a very, very popular RPG. I do remember Chrono Trigger at some point being in the house. But as far as RPGs go, that is probably like the only real RPG I remember. Everything else was all action and adventure. And so that's why you see a lot of that in my collection. And so you see Thunder Force 3 here. Thunder Force 3, when he came home with this one, I did remember him having Thunder Force 2, but Thunder Force 2 wasn't it didn't play the same. Thunder Force 3 is a side-scrolling horizontal shoot 'em up. And it's not one of those games where, your ship, you get bombs and you can clear the screen with a bunch of bombs. It's one of those games where you get a bunch of different weapons and you have to utilize those weapons at different times throughout the game to get the best outcome, right? So, and Thunder Force 3, it's fast paced. Again, very colorful game. The sound effects is, just amazing. The music on these shoot 'em ups just, I think, make them. And Thunder Force 3, it's not a 1993 game, right? This one came out in 1990, but this is one of those games that my brother did not get right away. Kind of took him a little time to come around to this one. And Thunder Force 3 was a very popular game. I mean, it's always been a very popular game. Developed by Technosoft. It's the third chapter in the Thunder Force series. I just mentioned Thunder Force 2. Can't remember the name of the first Thunder Force game. I think it was I can't remember. I know Super Nintendo released Thunder Force 3 under the name Thunder Spirits. I actually have that game as well. It did come out on a few different platforms, Thunder Force 3, right? So that's kind of the difference. Rocket Knight, you're not really seeing Rocket Knight adventures on any other platform outside of Sega. When it came to Thunder Force 3, obviously it was an arcade classic. You could get it on the 3DS, Switch. You can download it in a few places, but I remember it specifically on the Sega Genesis. And again, it's just, the story is pretty cool. It takes Thunder Force 3, it takes place about 100 years after the Thunder Force, the original Thunder Force. And then it's directly after Thunder Force 2. So that's just the plot is interesting. A lot of these shoot 'em ups, you kind of just have to read, the cutscenes and listen to the cutscenes in between to kind of keep up with the story. And Thunder Force, just in terms of shoot 'em ups, was just a very colorful, fast-paced, horizontal shoot 'em up. And I actually prefer the horizontal shoot 'em ups more so than the vertical shooters, or I guess I think Metal Jesus refers to them as cave shooters. So I like the horizontal ones better. I feel like I can dodge a little bit better with horizontal shoot 'em ups. But Thunder Force 3 was a very fun one. This was one that, again, it's one of those games where you have to learn the boards, learn at what point what enemies are going to try to attack and how. And the more you play the game, just the better you get at dodging enemies and utilizing the right weapons to beat certain bosses or get through certain parts of the game. And again, these two games, early 90s, these two games were everything. I would go to school humming the music, just thinking about the game, hoping that I got home from school early enough to be able to sneak in a few rounds before my brother got home. Because again, he kept those Genesis games tucked away. So, you have to get the chair out, climb to the top shelf in the closet, pull them out, sneak the cartridge in, get a few rounds in. And then as soon as you hear that door, you better turn that Sega Genesis off, put those games away, or you're getting in trouble with your brother. And just good times. So that really does it for this episode in the Sega Nostalgia series. Again, Rocket Knight Adventures, Thunder Force 3, two amazing games that just had a heavy impact in the Sega Genesis library and are still quite popular today. 30 years later or more in some cases? I think obviously in Thunder Force 2, we're talking 32 years. Rocket Knight Adventures, we're coming up on 30 years for this game. So hopefully they do some type of 30-year anniversary for Rocket Knight. Maybe we'll see some type of remake of the game, maybe a 3D version. Maybe we'll get something like it on the PS5, PS4. If they do that, hopefully it's fun. It's a really fun game. It's been a while since, we've seen a really standout action platformer, 3D action platformer. And I think Rocket Knight Adventures would be a great candidate for something like that. All right, well, that does it. Thanks for stopping by and checking out this Sega Nostalgia installment. I am the Y2K Collector. Let me know how these two games affected you back in the day, and are you still playing them now? Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take it easy.